Let's see. Keyboard ready? Yes. Pointer devices ready? Yes. Let's see. Let's see now what we still need to do. I think we need to just make sure that I'm in as well. Okay, thank you, Yoon, and Lucas as well. Thank you for saying that you can't hear anything. I've been talking here now for several minutes, just by myself. I had forgotten to turn on my microphone. It should be better now. Let me know in the chat if that's the case. So what I was saying is that we have a simple command jesterBox that takes inputs, 3 options and a point, and you can click around in the viewport and change the settings. Let's do that again. So click around to determine an insertion location and change the settings. And when you're ready to accept, we can just press enter and the object gets added. Yeah, sorry for not having the microphone on. I guess the brain cells are a bit frozen still this morning. Starting the car at a temperature of minus 21 Celsius degrees, which is equal to something like minus 5 Fahrenheit. At the moment it's 17.1 degrees below zero. So that is, what is that? Almost one Fahrenheit degree. So it's pretty chilly. Anyway, we have sound, we have Rhino, and we have code. So at the end of the previous stream, someone suggested that it would be nice to have more interactive feedback. So if we start this command again, the question was how that it would be nice to have essentially the box that's now in blue on my screen, the preview of it, kind of follow the mouse around before you click for the new location. So for this stream, to get started, I was thinking of doing exactly that, so that when you move the mouse around in the viewport, that there would be a second preview, so a preview to the preview that follows the mouse. That we are going to do at least today, and then depending a bit on how well it goes, I'd like to get started also on doing custom object and custom grips. So I mentioned in previous stream that this box, it would be nice to be able to kind of afterwards, when you have dropped it in, to kind of easily change it, essentially in two different ways. So one way is in a panel on the right here. So when the box that you add is selected, we recognize that this is our own object type, and then show properties here, or our own panel in the very least, and then be able to change the width, height, and length settings of the box, and why not even the location information, and then building on that, to have also custom grips in the viewport. So of course we have the gumball, which is obviously very nice, but I'd like to have our custom object, when you select it, then the grips are on, have 4 grips essentially. One for the location, and then one for width, one for height, and one for length. So that you could just grab one of those grips and then start dragging it around. And while you do that, show with the display conduit also some information, so the numerical information for those dimensions. So let's look at what we have at the moment. Let's not update this now. And so I was reading through this text a bit. There are actually places where I would reword some of the text to make it read better, but I'm not going to do that today, I think. But I was looking at it would be nice to be able to get some diagrams in here, some kind of images that would explain or help explain some parts of the code, the relationships between different parts and so on. So I have been using in Visual Studio Code a plugin that allows visualizing of Mermaid diagrams. So let me scroll down. I have this very small sample here, code block with Mermaid as the syntax, and then just write in simple ASCII essentially, just with text, denote the graph you want, and then the plugin essentially creates a nice image here. And my literate extension does not really do that yet, so I think I'm going to log quickly now an issue for my plugin. Let's see, where am I? Here. So that it would be nice to have Mermaid support in. So let's start with that. Support Mermaid graphs. Be able to add code blocks for Mermaid graphs. The resulting HTML needs to support Mermaid, the Mermaid library, to be able to draw these when viewed in the browser. So when we look at the generated HTML for this one, I did that a bit earlier, we can see that over here is just a pre with a title and then just the text, the code essentially for the graph, but that's not very nice looking. So the idea is to have the Mermaid library integrated in those pages. So if you wonder what Mermaid is, it's a JavaScript library that exactly does that for you. So read the text representation of your graph and then create nice looking graphs of this. So this is the example I quickly copy pasted into the code, but this kind of sequence diagrams I kind of like them because, for instance, with the input loop we have here, let me remove now the literate part. So the input loop we have here at the moment, well, it's not very complicated at the moment, but it's always good to document the order of things you design the command to work at. So having them written out with such a diagram would be a really nice addition for the plugin. Right, so adding this dynamic draw on the command. Let me pull up the documentation for right. Alt tab is not working really well, and it's probably because I have WinCompose enabled. Let me disable that for a moment. WinCompose I use for some of the oh, excuse me, some of the special characters. I'm just quickly changing how this works. So Maintain original compose behavior. I think I need to check that. Because at the moment I am not able to Alt tab. Oh, now I can. Good, good. The documentation I was going to pull up. Right. So for the plugin or the command jesterBox, we're currently using the GetPoint custom input. Let's look at that. Oh, then that's documents, doc objects. I need to look at input custom namespace. So we're using get option. And when we look in the API for this, there is, when we scroll down, there is this, where can I find it? Oh, yes, of course. Still brain freeze, I guess. Even my toes are a little bit chilly. I did click on get option instead of get point. Right. Let's scroll down. So there should be this function for drawing on dynamic draw. This is what we want to look at. So on dynamic draw, this is called for whenever you do something with the mouse, I believe. So I think we need to implement our own version of GetPoint, so derive from GetPoint a new class, and then implement or override on dynamic draw. And drawing is done in this, at least that's the idea, but I think that instead of doing the drawing here, I'm going to set some information that I can read. So on the class, make information. The information that I want to put in there is essentially a point 3D that I can read and set on my display conduit implementation that we have. So let's look at the GetPoint draw event args. We get current point. So there is already a point here, and this is the one that I want to set on the display conduit, and then do the extra drawing in the display conduit. And that's at least my current thinking is that that way I can keep centralized the drawing of the box previews, since we are going to do essentially 2 box previews or object previews. So let's have a look at the code then. My code is here. So, and actually one other thing I was reading through this morning was this setting up of the project file. Currently it's just hard coded in here outside of the literal document. But since at the moment it's very small still, I think it's going to be better in the long run if I'm going to change this part also to be done in the literal document, so that whenever we are going to add a new class and generate a new file, then we can easily extend it at that point in the documentation. So let's start first with that. Creating the project. I didn't really like that being twice there. the creating a plugin and then creating the project. So setting up the project, and we're going to do a little bit of rewrite here, because at the moment we are not going to, or with this approach we are no longer asking the user to create the class library project using the .NET tool, but instead we are going to create it as a literate part. So since the plugin is essentially DLL with the extension renamed to RHP, we create a ClassLab template project. So let's not do that. We create a .csproj file that contains the project description, and we are going to introduce a new fragment for that. That's going to be the jesterLive code project file. Oh, and .asterisk, because this is special, and we give it the file location we want to live at. And let's peek a little bit here. So that's under jesterLive code and then jesterLive code csproj. jesterLive code and jesterLive code csproj. Closing ticks, and just do some copy pasting here. Let's see. So this is the start of the project, and then we want to do maybe inside here. So project jesterLive code project properties. If you're wondering why I'm repeating the name jesterLive code here, it's because current version of the literate plugin can handle many .literate or handles all .literate files in a workspace folder, and you can have only one fragment name in the entire project. So having twice the same project properties, for instance, in two different files defined there, then you get an error. So that's why I'm now adding just an extra specifier on the name. So we are going to have properties here, and over here it will make sense to have jesterLive code project package references. And then over here we are going to have jesterLive code source files. So we are going to clean that up in a moment. So we don't need this anymore. To have to generate it, to have the project compile as a Rhino plugin, we need to make sure, or make some, we need to target, we need to target the .NET library, the .NET framework, and I guess like so, and that's in the properties group. We are going to add that now. C#. Oh no, it's actually not C#. This is XML, right? XML. XML. And this is the Yester live code project properties. This is the very first version of first time we are going to show this. So now we do just the equal sign here. Let's put in, oh, delete it from here. Right, that's there. This also means that we need to disable the C#10 features, and that's a bit unclear. I'm not sure what it really means here, but I think that's further on. So we need to tell the project that we want an RHP file, not DLL. We're going to use the target text. We already have this XML block here. Now we are going to add it to the Yester live code project properties fragment. Let's equal plus, and we also want to control project management manually, and these two are already nicely here, so we are going to actually use this line here. Make sure that Yester live code project properties also gets this part in. So now we should have those 4 or 3 now also removed. We are going to add all necessary information to the respective fragments. And there's an R missing now, so let's add it. An Alt Q. Now we are going to do the package reference. To be able to use Rhino SDK, we need to add the Rhino common package reference from NuGet. So we are going to do that here. Let's copy paste these two for a moment. So XML, and that's going to be the Yester. Oh, we already have the tag there, that's why I copy pasted it. And equal sign here because it's the first one, and no indent is needed here. Okay, we can remove this part here. So I'm now doing this because, as I mentioned, we're going to add more and more files, and it's just nicer to just include in this fragment at the moment in the documentation when we are actually creating the file. So we now have package references. I guess here we get our first file. So the source file needs to be added to the project to have it compiled, since we are managing the project manually. Let's see. So that would be add here XML fragment, Yester live code, and what was it? Source files, right? Source files indeed. Source files. This is the very first occurrence of this fragment. So we do it like this. And let's cut and paste it here. And then for the next files, we again add to this fragment. I'm going to copy paste this line. Let's scroll down a bit. This is the assembly part. Let's add it here. In front or after? Maybe after all. Add the assembly information file to the project, and that's going to be another cut and paste. I guess I should learn more the shortcuts for navigating in source code. But for now, I guess I can be lazy. And as I said, this needs to be an addition to the fragment, so the plus is needed here. Now we create our code first using, so it's here. The source file for jesterBox command needs to be. Maybe I'm not going to say that every time. I'm just going to add it here. After a few times, I assume it's going to be clear to readers that we are adding the file. Right. And then one more, and that's for the display conduit. And then we can add implementation for GetPoint. Creating a display conduit. We're going to add it here then. Let's do a copy paste again. So now from here on in we can keep using this fragment to add our new files. Let me see if this all still generates a good project file. Some changes have happened, and that's mainly the indentation. Let me clean it up a bit here. In the project file, having mixed tabs and space is not nice. I actually prefer tabs. So let's do, I've selected now this bit. What are we recording? I don't want to record anything. Recording at O. Not sure what that means. Let's not worry about that for now. So :S, we are going to substitute 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces with tab. So that would be, well, let's see if this works. Backspace T, that worked fine. And there's still one case where we have 2 spaces. Oh, well, let's do it like this. Oh. And then use our history. Right. The all-important white space fix. Let's see, does this look good? Yes. There are some unnecessary white space here essentially, but we're not going to care too much about that. We're only going to care now if it still compiles. We didn't make code changes, but let's check our project file still. Yes, start live code, and then we do .NET build. How cool is that? 0 warnings and 0 errors. Okay, let's get back to the actual code then, shall we? By the way, feel free to ask questions in chat. It's always good to have people ask questions when they have them and not wait until the end. jesterBox needs a GetPoint implementation. Let's read again a bit through the documentation, because it makes sense to always revisit the documentation at the same time that it stays sane. I mean the same between parts. So we have a creating command. We are going to use a get option, GetPoint instance. I'm going to say at this point in the documentation that we'll be creating an instance of our custom GetPoint implementation. Yeah, and then after this we can implement the GetPoint class as we need it. Yoon is asking for work on localization, and we will get into it. I don't think today. There are some things I need to figure out myself first. Regarding localization, I have used it mainly in such a way that I haven't had to think about it much. I just put in a few strings that automatically get replaced in our Rhino build process. So I actually don't know much about that, but we can find out. We certainly will have a look at that. So in case you didn't know, I am Dutch, so my first language is the Dutch language. I live in Finland, so essentially my second language is Finnish. We're currently talking English, so that's something. But having for this project, this stream project, at the moment we could, when we get to localization, look at doing this for Finnish and Dutch. I have no idea if that's going to work, but we can have a look. What am I trying to do? I want to do that. Sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted here. Let's do the right. GetPoint we were doing. So GetPoint instance. As mentioned, we want to add the box to a user picked position. For that we need the GetPoint class. For our project we implement a custom GetPoint class. Come on. Class which we will be using to what we'll be using for, we will be using to handle interactive mouse movements and display some intermediate results while our command is still active. Does that make sense still? We can add the options to the instance of the class when we have one. It is also good to tell the user, right? So June asks, can I get the Rhino common version in my notifications? Is there any other way to check it myself? What exactly do you mean with that? Do you want to have update notifications, or for when Rhino gets an update? And through that you get essentially a Rhino common update? Or do you want to have a way to check programmatically with code what version of Rhino is being used at the moment? Let me know in the chat what you mean and we can figure it out. Maybe have a good name for our GetPoint class. For operator, we implement a custom GetPoint class. Here would be a good name. jesterBox GetPoint. Maybe have a capital J. And let's change it also here. jesterBox GetPoint. And then over here we're going to do jesterBox GetPoint. Right. So at the moment I don't think we let's keep it just always lowercase jester, so we don't get too much differences between naming. If it starts to annoy for whatever reason, we can always rename. So we have our input loop, blah blah blah, jesterBox conduit we set up to the looping. This all should just work fine. Let me change no highlight, right? Input loop handling, that's fine. We create a display conduit. Let's put after this, and that was level 2 header. So creating implementing the custom GetPoint class, jesterBox GetPoint. I call it jesterBox GetPoint in case we add new commands with other custom GetPoint implementations. The custom GetPoint, let's make that also code, inline code. Hello Ryan, thank you for joining. So we're at the point of implementing a custom GetPoint class that we are going to use to communicate some data while we are moving the mouse in the viewport. We'll see soon how that's going to work. So the custom GetPoint class will be used to, as I just said, communicate mouse location as point 3D data to the display conduit for drawing a preview of the preview. The preview. We want to show where the new location would end up. Okay, that's it. Now we know what we want to do. We are going to create a new file, so we are going to add it to yester live code source files. Oh, not subtract, but add. And it's going to be called. Wait, I'm going to be lazy. I don't remember all that stuff, so we're going to look at this one over here we had. So it was a compile tag. And this is going to be jesterBox get option. Oh, jesterBox get option. And let's now start with the code. C#, yester live code, jesterBox get option. So this is going to be just boilerplate code. And we want to have jesterBox get option imports. Then we have our namespace, yester live code, and then a public class jesterBox get option. We are deriving from get option. Oh, no, not get option. What am I talking about? GetPoint. Good that no one in chat yet noticed the blatant mistake. I'm going to use the excuse that point and option have all the same letters. In different quantities and different order perhaps, but still. So not jesterBox get option, but GetPoint. Wait, I was going to add the file name still. So we are creating a new file, and it's going to be under yester live code, and then it's going to be a jesterBox point cs, right? So that's going to be, well, maybe just call this jesterBox get point public API. I guess that's it, right? We need it, so it's going to be a constructor, and there's going to be a property through which we want to provide the point 3D that we get in the on-dynamic draw implementation we are making. Or so we are getting called on dynamic draw, and from the event arcs that we get passed to it, we are going to lift out the point information. So let's look here again. So there's this current point. This is what we are going to set as value to the property that we're going to add to our jesterBox GetPoint implementation. If we look at the code again, so if we go back to the display conduit, we have data access, right, and the bounding box, and then the actual drawing. So draw overlay in here, we are going to do draw two boxes essentially, one for location and then one for, sure, why not call it no, maybe not current location. What should we call it? Potential location. Well, we'll see. It does not really matter that much as long as it still communicates what we want to do with that location where the mouse is from the perspective of the command. So that's going to be in here. So we'll be drawing twice a box with different color. So blue is the current preview color, as in these are the current settings, and we could do, I don't know, maybe some gray or purple maybe, or any other color for the preview of this preview. Oh, sorry, I'm bumping into my microphone. And so we need also in here a property for holding that information, and we're going to set that in the input loop handling. So whenever a point is clicked, we need to add it here as well. Right. Sounds like a plan. Let me quickly check. So we're not going to do anything big in our constructor. I'm not sure if we actually need one, but I'm going to add one just directly here. So it's public jesterBox GetPoint. Just make it empty, and then we are going to do the rest in the public API fragment. So let's write out what I have been talking now. So let's start with the on dynamic draw override. So let's go back to the documentation a bit, so you don't get lost, and so I don't get lost. So this is the bit that we want to override, and of course Rhino input custom is what we need as an import. Since we are inheriting GetPoint, we need the Rhino input custom namespace. Let's add that. So it's going to be C# colon with shift instead of layer 1 key. jesterBox GetPoint imports, and it's the first time we are going to add something here. So not import, using Rhino input custom. There are two parts to the public API for our GetPoint implementation. GetPoint implementation overriding the on dynamic draw method and providing a property let's call it let's call it potential location. If in chat you have better suggestions for this property, then just make suggestions. So this is the location where we, if we click, the box would get created. So I guess potential sounds good, right? Potential location. In the so that's now going to be C#. jesterBox GetPoint. Maybe type it properly. jesterBox GetPoint public API equals, and that's going to be so we are going to start with the on dynamic draw. Our on dynamic draw, I'm actually not sure if this is going to work the way I think it's going to, so you'll find out soon enough. So our dynamic draw implementation is only going to harvest the current location from the event argument passed to it when called. This we set to this we save for further usage. So that's going to be oh, what was it? Public or protected? It's protected. So protected override, and was it just void? Yes. So we can see here protected virtual void. So we're going to do that, and then it's going to be GetPoint draw event args. Void on dynamic draw. Oh man, I already forgot. GetPoint draw event args. GetPoint draw event args. E doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. And then we're going to do potential location, because we're going to save this. It's e.current location. I'm assuming here that this point is a point in the world for that view. So that determining this point is already done for us. When I was thinking about this yesterday, I was still, and I hadn't read up on the on dynamic draw API. I was still kind of dreading the thought of having to first get the location in the rectangle of the viewport, as in the what it's on screen, and then do conversion from that screen coordinate into world coordinate. But I'm now going to assume that that's not necessary, that this current location does it for us. And the location data is provided through potential location. It may sound look like a bit of overkill writing out this much in words what we also do in code. But again, I try to document this as much as possible, that on a later date I remember better what it is about, that I made the decisions that I made. And of course, for people who are not yet familiar with the project, or maybe even not yet that familiar with coding, programming, have an easier time of following the train of thought here. So, and at the moment, for this part, I have not much else to say, I guess. But if I had, then here I could add more text to explain. This is going to be a simple property, point 3D. We need to import point 3D, of course. What was potential location? That's going to be simple get set. Get set, like so. So we are going to inherit GetPoint, and the reason why we are going to do using Rhino geometry, we need also access to point 3D from Rhino geometry namespace, and maybe add the article in front of it, from the right. So using rhino.geometry, let's generate the code, see if we get any errors. Always surprising when there are no warnings right away. So let's see, do we have now the new file here? jesterBox point it's called. That's incorrect, so I made a mistake. Let's see. Illiterate. Right. GetPoint. Of course, I could have just compiled code and then looked at the warnings and things like that, but I think it's also useful to check changes before compiling. What do we have here? jesterBox command. Something is going on here. What is going on? We are having no problems. Well, this looks good. It probably just, so Visual Studio Code probably just needed to reparse the file for symbols. This is red, so maybe something up here. Oh, I was looking at it. I mean this one. Current location. Was it not current location? GetPoint. Let's look at the documentation again. GetPoint draw event arcs. Current point. Yes, as we talked about before, code completion here would be really useful. But we'll manage for now. Where's my literate file here? And this is going to be current point. Generate this, and it's green now. All looks green. Let's compile this. .NET build. Oh, and before we are going to do anything, I just remembered that we of course need to actually use this mechanism that we have provided. So let's go back to our code. In our input handling loop, my throat says need water. Input handling loop. Like there. So at this case, so we still need to add to the conduit the potential location as well. So conduit.potential location equals GetPoint potential location. So we want to tell it. Let's see our display conduit. So with date access, not only do we need the dimensions and location of the object to be added, we also maybe do that with underscores. Oh, also want to know the potential future location. Oh, that's not too future. The potential location of the object under the mouse cursor. Alt Q, right? So we are going to add that to this. Let me copy paste that. A plus. So that's going to be public. Wait, that's not public. Public point 3D potential location. At the moment, I do like the name get potential location. It feels like it exactly tells what we want it to do. Some error here. Yes. Of course, we need to ensure that it's public. Jumping so much between different programming languages, I sometimes forget that. So we may need to make. No, it's public here. Potential location, public. What does it say? GetPoint. Potential location. Let's see what code completion says here. Oh, assuming I can type. Potential. Potential location. Am I loading using Rhino.display as before? We are not using Rhino.display at the moment, other than the display conduit, yes. So this we have here, and our jesterBox GetPoint. Oh, maybe I need to make sure that the other file is no longer there. Let's remove this one. Delete. Maybe that's still a problem here. So jesterBox GetPoint is here. Potential location. jesterBox GetPoint potential location. It's being used. Am I missing something in my project file? jesterBox GetPoint. Yes, it's there. Dum. So let's go back to using this in the input loop. Let's see if my eye spies something. Oh, probably need to rebuild. So GetPoint potential location, yes. Let's now assume for now that is correct, and then we're going to do the drawing part in the display conduit. And we have to add for both locations. So we're going to do the preview box. Well, the first one is also a preview box, but potential location, and then we get preview bounding box of the preview box, and then we are going to include also preview bounding box, and then we are going to draw it. So we create another box, again preview box, and this is maybe not the most efficient way, but we are not going to optimize at this point. So create the box at the other location, and then what color shall we use? I think I'm actually not sure what all the names are here, so let's just guess on gray. Generate the code. Let's see if this does want to compile or not. No. GetPoint does not contain a definition for potential location. Oh, I already know. So I changed in one location, but our GetPoint variable is still declared to be a GetPoint instance, and that works just fine because jesterBox GetPoint class inherits from GetPoint. So in that case, in that place, there's still no problem. So I need to just change here GetPoint to jesterBox GetPoint, jesterBox GetPoint, because GetPoint does not have this API that we added. So now also write the error warning. The error disappeared in the Explorer part. Now we can build. Ooh, let's see. So an hour of typing and talking, just doing it all the slow way. We are not in a hurry, so let's see if just an hour of typing, if this now works right away. So jesterBox. No. This is not working as I hoped. So let's revisit the code. Yeah, I had to change the type, Jun. Indeed, let me quickly show again. So over here I had GetPoint as the class. We are creating an instance of jesterBox GetPoint, but because it is inherited GetPoint, it was valid. It gets downcasted to GetPoint, and at that point, this variable loses essentially the API that's provided by jesterBox GetPoint. let's have a look at the display conduit drawing part. Or maybe first look at the input handling. So we get the point. And we have potential location. As said, I'm assuming that this is going to work, but it's not really. Maybe I need to do it the other way around. I kind of like this way around on dynamic draw. Let me look at the documentation again. It was a bit lean on text here. Default calls the dynamic draw event. Not really sure what that means. Maybe I can do on mouse move. I think that's going to make much more sense. But this is where we maybe need to do. Oh, let's, instead of on dynamic draw, we are going to try using on mouse move. Yeah. So much for my first idea, but that's the way of the coder. Try one thing, look right into a wall, and then try to find a lower wall, so that at least the head does not hurt, just the knees. So we are going to go to implementing the custom GetPoint class and then change a bit the text here. Overriding the on mouse move. I guess more water is needed. Just a moment. So I guess my assumption of on dynamic draw is always drawing when you move the mouse. It's not holding. But I'm going to assume that when we're moving the mouse, on mouse move is always getting called. Sounds at least promising. So overriding the on mouse move method and providing a property potential location, our on mouse move implementation is going to harvest the current location. So it's not anymore current location. So on mouse move implementation is going to harvest the point property from the event argument passed to it when called. This we say for further usage. So it's going to be on, oh, too much, on mouse move, and this is going to be GetPoint mouse event args. GetPoint mouse event args, and then it's not going to be current point but point. Who knows, maybe this works. Would be nice, because then we can go on to the next part. Oh, this is my arrow key. At least it compiled. Let's see. Firing up Rhino. I got a license. That would be something, not having a license as a Rhino dev. Oh, I don't need the pen. So, jesterBox. And it's not doing as I hoped it would. Oh no, of course not. I now completely understand. And that's because currently I am setting the current location or the potential location only when I click and not when I move the mouse. So we have to change the way we approach this. A similar kind of wall. Maybe it was a little bit lower, but I still ran into the wall. Yeah, this is not working out, but we'll get there. Right. So instead of the input loop setting the data, I think we need to just add, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Maybe do we need to add some linkage between jesterBox GetPoint implementation and the conduit. Let's see, so we have, let's look at our input loop. And that's fine, but this is not going to work. So we can take that out for now. And let's look at how we set up the command. So we have jesterBox GetPoint instance. Then we are reacting to on mouse move. So maybe, where do we set up our conduit? Maybe if we add our conduit before we instantiate our GetPoint class, and then give GetPoint the class. So what I'm trying to think of is how to ensure that I don't have to write twice the drawing code. And that's why I'm trying to think of doing it in, that's why I was thinking of doing it with display conduit. Let's look at setting up the conduit. Initialize the display conduit. It does not need anything. We enable it. So let's move this earlier, like so. Just we are going to start by with enabling the conduit. Have the command options be added or instantiated, and then we set up the GetPoint class or instance, and we are going to do this. We are going to give the custom class this conduit. So we are going to have jesterBox conduit, I guess. What did we call it? jesterBox conduit, yes. And then we are going to have the custom GetPoint class will be used to communicate mouse location as point 3D data to the display conduit. The jesterBox display conduit, or the conduit we call it, right? jesterBox conduit instance let's say a jesterBox instance is passed to our GetPoint implementation when it is constructed. Maybe not the best language. We have two actors essentially in our sentence, and having it in the sentence. Now to what are we pointing? To the jesterConduit instance or to the GetPoint implementation? But that's for grammar geeks, I guess, or not grammar geeks, for style geeks. A jesterBox conduit is passed on, and our class needs to hold on to it. So during on mouse move, the conduit can be updated. And again, I'm going to assume here that the conduit in the very least is going to be called whenever we change the mouse location, because it's in the overlay feedback event of the conduit. Oh, it's a nice learning experience, isn't it? So this is going to be a private jesterBox conduit. Similarly named variables is always annoying. Maybe put this here since it's private, like an underbar here. So conduit is conduit. Since we are inheriting GetPoint, blah 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 blah, that's fine. Overriding mouse move. Let's rewrap that text. This we save to the display conduit for further usage. Exactly, this is good repetition and practice. And in my experience, this is how much of at least my work is going to happen. Wait a minute, let me stop with that thought. I'm first going to set here the conduit dot potential location, and we don't need any more this bit here. So iterating through approaches and ideas while working is at least part of my daily coder's life, and it's also why I don't really like videos where everything just goes as slick as possible, because that's not my experience of coding. What did I do wrong? Cannot use local variable height before it is declared. So we have to reshuffle a little bit code because we moved the display conduit up. That would be here. So we first set up the display conduit, and that at the moment that was, where are these? Maybe add it after the command options. That should be fine. Right, now we compile. cannot use local variable point. Ooh. Let's try to not kick the microphone too much. Juan asks, do I put underscores in front of variables, etc. for clarity? Yes, for private variables, I tend to put underscore or underbar, however you want to call it, as a prefix to names, so that from looking at the code, I already know that, oh, this is a variable and it is private to the class. Let's look at the code. So the problem is here. This one we need essentially up. So let's move that code a bit. Does it still make sense then? So it doesn't confuse too much. So this one. Weekend options. Did we mention about adding the point? Let's move this now up. So we have here, we need to add the command options to be able to use the custom input classes, blah blah blah. Add command options. Oh, I can't think of anything useful to say at the moment here, so let's not change that at the moment. Although I must admit I don't really like if things stay a bit unclear. So starting Rhino again. Let's see. Then we start our command. No. This one is now looking gray because it's being drawn after. So I have the debug target in here. So let's put now breakpoints. If we try it now with just trying to reason about this, and clearly assumptions are not correct. So in my conduit, I'm going to put a breakpoint here because I want to know if this is getting hit all the time when I move the mouse. If it's not, then we really have to move the drawing code on dynamic draw, I guess. Let's first put just breakpoint here, and then see if we can put a breakpoint in the GetPoint implementation. And you're probably right in thinking that if I had done a, not sure why this is happening this way, but if I had done a debug session earlier on, I wouldn't have fought with my assumptions. But so this one was being called once with F5, right? Okay. So that was 5 times calling. Do I dare to tab back to Rhino? Yes, so this is constantly being called. And we still don't have proper inspection of our local variables. We do have a call stack, but that's not being useful at the moment, and this may be due to using .NET as the compiling way. Maybe I need to figure out if the database, the debug database for the symbols, is in the incorrect format. Line 31 should be preview box. This sounds like a really good thing. So maybe it all had been working. Thank you, SSNM. So that was bounding box we did correct, but so maybe on dynamic draw already worked from the get-go. This is how things work. Make stupid mistakes like this. Cry a little. And then pick yourself up and try again. And maybe hope that no one saw that. Let's see. jesterBox. Oh, look at that. Thank you, SSNM. So now if I'm going to change width to say 20 to 25. And this looks rather nice. And I think in the end, probably using the this way of setting the information on the conduit, having it passed to the GetPoint instance is the better way than the very first mechanism that I had added. So setting the potential location on the conduit only when you click. Well, that's obviously not going to work because it's going to be the same point as the other location. I think this looks nice and smooth. This is going to work like this. It's even working with the different viewports automatically. Right. So let's be happy for a moment. Is it still necessary to initialize the point at origin for the command now? Yeah, I think it is, because unset, the very first time we start this and we create boxes with the location set to point3d.unset, is going to give us invalid brep geometry. So it's still important to do initialization of the point. What we could do, however, I had thought of this before, but you reminded me, Xavier, is when we start a command and we have our mouse in some location, use that location at that point in time for the very first location. So not instead of what's it called, point3d.origin, use the point that's in there. So when you let's add this object. So when you do something like this, so our origin is outside of the viewport. Maybe I have my hands better. That the current setting, the first box is currently the blue one, is now outside of the view. And although this does give good feedback at the moment, maybe it's nicer to have indeed already when you start the command and harvest the mouse location at that point in time. So maybe we can do that right away. Let's see. So when we look back at the code, let's go to our literate code. So the most important part is we need to have a actually set point 3D. Unset is not going to work. We are initializing our jesterBox GetPoint class. Let's go there. So maybe at that point we already could set, I don't know if we do have access to one of the mouse moves at that point in time. Let's think about this. So we create the command. We have the command options. We set up the display conduit, and then we initialize our GetPoint, our own class implementation. I would assume that already then we are able to have had some mouse movements because our mouse is there at some point. Let's look at, so we have here GetBox GetPoint initialization, and then we go into the loop. And also with drawing the conduit, we need to have a point already added. I mean a proper point, because otherwise the drawing is not going to work properly. So maybe if is writing a conduit a new way of writing? I think conduits have been, at least for my entire career, for 7 years in the very least, probably even longer. So my Rhino developer career started with working on the whip version of Rhino 6. I have once or twice used Rhino 5, but not really coded for it. So on the code side I don't know much about Rhino code prior to Rhino 6. But conduits have been in at least for 7 years. That's how long I've been typing on Rhino code. So I was thinking that let's see, my thoughts are a bit, maybe I need a bit water. I guess it is a little bit chicken and egg type of problem, because we want to have our first point set to something that's at the mouse location. We have our GetPoint class initialized. So we need a way to get a point at that very first time we have, or the very first on mouse move we get. we record this special point as the very first point and somehow provide that. But how to do that in the most sane way? Let's look at our custom GetPoint. So on the conduit, thank you, Lucas. So apparently display conduits were already in Rhino 5. I'll have to take your word for that, Lucas. I don't know about Rhino 5 code. Or actually, the very first ray traced implementation I did, a proof of concept, was for Rhino 5, but it was in a really tiny box, as in very tiny part of Rhino that I used to do the very first proof of concept implementation of ray traced. But after that we switched to Rhino 6 because it was going to be for Rhino 6, the new Rhino, at that point in time, 2014. May, to be precise, I started working with Rhino code for reals. So we do get on mouse move. Do I want to add a Boolean flag that is set to false in the beginning, and if that flag is false, we also set it to we are already setting on mouse move here on the conduit, so the conduit has a potential location. So I guess instead makes most sense to just read, or at least try if we can read potential location at the very beginning and initialize point, or set that as the new point value. So we initialize, let's see, initialize the display conduit right here, it's fine, and that we give to the GetPoint instance here. Maybe if we do at this point equals conduit potential location, and this is outside of our loop. So Xavier says maybe if no point is pre-selected, we just see the preview until we choose a point. So we can keep the origin but hide the blue preview. Otherwise just use an optional pre-selected point. Yeah, that could be of course one way as well. Well, I now typed this one way. And let's also actually do conduit.location. Let's try this one, and if this does not work, then let's go with the suggestion from Xavier, which is I think a good suggestion. Let's see if this is going to work. And I think we're getting, this is some finessing of the current custom GetPoint and interactivity on screen. So okay, now that that was not really useful, I guess. And did not really work as I thought. Let's see. Again. Yeah. I guess, Xavier, your idea is a bit better. That at the beginning of, on the other hand, this command is designed to work in such a way that you just start it and press enter right away, and then without that it adds the object. But I still think that this should be working. Let's look at the realized code. Maybe I'm missing something, just like drawing twice the same box with different colors on top of each other. So we have a point, conjugate, so maybe at this point in time we haven't had a call to mouse move yet, so this is not going to work. What does our GetPoint give us more? Let's see. Oh, let's not update. And one more peek at our GetPoint class methods. So we have, let's look at the constraint, I mean the constructor, nothing in there. On dynamic draw, when we press enter we use the last potential location as location. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but let's put it this way, it's a good idea. I do like it. The only but here I have here is that the initial design idea was to have on enter exactly that what is in the blue one, but maybe, as you say, if we haven't pressed anywhere yet, and then with the mouse I mean, indeed when no location was set yet, so point would be unset at that time. When we press enter at that point and point is unset, then use potential location. Well, that sounds really good. I think we should be able to throw that in. Let's get rid of this line and have our point 3D origin set. Instead of origin, let's use unset, and it means that in our, there are two locations now we have to handle this. So why am I changing the actual code? I need to change this. So glad I noticed it early enough. So unset. Did I mention anything about? No. That we had to initialize to some value. So after we end this stream, I'm going to read through the code and make sure that the documentation still fits what we are actually doing. So this is fine. Now we're going to look at the drawing. So in this case, so if now I have to, there is probably is valid method on the point, but let's go to our on mouse move and to the arguments and then click open point and then point 3D and then is valid. Right, so this should be if is valid. If is valid. And also for the drawing of that one. Actually, let's add curly braces, because although it saves a few lines to not use braces, in the end, oh man, in the end it's better to be clear. Actually, let's do this a little bit different. So right, this part we're going to move in here. So first we do the actual box if something has been chosen, and then the preview. So that's part one, and the other part is with our command when we're done adding the object. So here. Well, why am I using point here? I should be using, oh, maybe it's fine. Let's do this. So if point is valid, or if it's not valid, we are going to use point equals conjugate potential location. Once we get out of the loop, still in a command, want to add, we add. Here we say if no point was specified by the user, when we get to this point, we are going to use the potential location as known by the conjugate. Sounds at least as a really good idea. Let's compile this and test it, and when it works, I think we are getting to the end of this stream. I assume that I clicked Rhino properly. Sometimes with the trackball that I'm using, my thumb, so this is the trackball I have. This trackball I'm using. So sometimes inside the trackball gets a bit dirty, and then sometimes I miss icons and then click on other places than what I intended to do. For some reason it's throwing a virtual box here. Right, well, I think this is something we can look into more the next time. Or maybe I should actually generate the code. I don't know if I actually did that. So let's try one more time, and after that, when we have admired a bit our handiwork for today, then we're going to end the stream. So it's going to be jesterBox. No, it's not doing exactly as what I hoped. I missed something, but this is nice. At the very end of this stream, let's commit and push the code so that we can add it to the description of this stream, and you all can have a look at the code. So this command changed, yes. The conjugate we changed a bit. The GetPoint one is a new file. We're going to add that. we changed a bit how the project file works. The HTML of course got updated, and our main file, the literate file. So let's add all changes here. So make the jesterBox command show an interactive preview. The preview interactive preview uses the mouse cursor location to draw a preview of our preview, and this updates interactively at all times while the command is active. And also for this kind of thing work, I think it's important to write in your commit messages good descriptive messaging, because just typing something like a work or more code is not going to explain anybody anything when they're looking at the Git history. So let's see, maybe add here code written during episode 4 of the live coding Rhino plugin series. Right. With that, I want to thank you all who have been on the stream. Very good feedback and pointing out my errors. Always good. So we have done that. Let's see, we git push. I don't use this button because I don't know what it exactly does. So I'm going to do git push. Oh, what did I do now wrong? Oh yes, git. Let's quickly do that. Git checkout. Wow. Git checkout -p. Git checkout main git pull. Oh wait, I'm going to use git k in this case. So just quickly show this kind of errors. I don't like unnecessary merge commits. So in temp fx I have the code committed. I'm going to reset the main branch because that is what I want to keep. Let's just reset everything. Git status, right? Now git pull. I do only fast forward, so if there are local changes, then it tells me so. It's not going to make automatic merge commits. As I said, I dislike them. So if I look again at my git k, oh, it's now opening on the wrong monitor. So it's 2 files I added on the other machine for better browsing of the project on jesterking.github.io/RHICS. That there's an index page there actually, so you can properly access the file or the project code from there. Now I'm going to merge temp fix in here. So git merge temp fix. We look again at git k, and now we can see that when I push this, git push. Oh wait. Oh yes. Or maybe it made a merge commit after all. I was too quick. Let's see, git k. Oh, git k. Yeah. That was not smart of me. I'm going to be really naughty on stream, and I'm going to do okay. Let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to get rid of the merge thingy. I'm going to reset my local main to here, right? And then I'm going to cherry pick this commit here. Oh, apparently it's not working like this. Git status. This you really shouldn't do in a live project where you have users already having pulled that really last commit, because it's going to, and then they are working based on that code, because it's going to mess with that. So don't do this on live projects where you have collaborators. Git reset hard head. So we have git k all. Yes, I could do this in a different way, but we have this, our main. I'm going to cherry pick this commit. What? Again, cherry pick this commit. Oh. Oh, maybe I need to git clean first. Git status. Yeah, git clean. Git status. Git k. So I needed to remove the file there, because otherwise I couldn't overwrite it. It was not staged, so Git was complaining there. Ooh. And now I should be able to, if I just git k here, does it look nicer now? Oh yes, look at that. Just one track history without weird merge commits. And now the naughty part, I'm going to force push. Again, don't do this in live projects where you have lots of collaborators, or even just one collaborator. And now, when we look at it on GitHub, yes, working. Let's go to the project page. Just a moment, I'm Rix getting it here. So if someone already pulled in those 5 minutes, sorry, you have to repull, refetch. So our history looks like this. Okay, on GitHub it always looks like one track, but gitk now also shows one track. So thanks all for joining, and have fun writing your own code. See you all next time.